think my early conception of our story was as a story and how it could be a story. And I think for me at the time, I really wanted to see it as sort of making lemonade out of lemons. Like, well, if I had to suffer the loss of my mother and then watching my father die and being orphaned at 21, at least I've got this great story. I've got to do something with this story. My father was very proud and open in his world and everything he did, but I don't think he felt very comfortable in the world of, my extended family or in the world of even my private school. I think on some level, like when he came out, he didn't want to deal with going back in the closet, yet I don't think he felt fully accepted or comfortable in those worlds. And so for me, I often was apart from my dad, and I would go to my grandparents and cousins by myself. At school, my father didn't really do very much in terms of PTA or so that I felt kind of on my own. And so in some ways, I learned to pass, or I learned to go into the closet myself. Because there wasn't a lot of social underpinning. I mean, there was no representation of gay dads or gay parents in the media. There was very much, the TV that I used to watch had a lot of sort of divorced parents, or there'd be sort of extended family, but I still knew that my family was very different. And also, for me, it wasn't just a matter of having a gay dad, it was also being motherless and being an only child. So I was very much in my head a lot of the time, and I think I was scared of being rejected, and so that I in the end was very secretive, and I lived in some ways I felt like a different life with my father and in my father's world than the life that I could also live in that was more of a straight world. So it's funny because there's been a lot of books by children of mixed marriages where the child is biracial and they feel kind of in between the two worlds. Well, that's, I think, in my generation anyway, a lot of children of gay parents similarly fell between two worlds. I drew on a lot of personal materials. So I had some reviewer saying, how can she remember all of this dialogue? Was there someone with a camera? And like, how was this all remembered? My father, at some points, was a very meticulous journal keeper, and he would write down things I would say to him. He would write down things that were being said in a room. Because he was also a writer, so he was, in some ways, he had written like 3 versions of his own autobiography over the years. One is a novel, one was a part of a Narcotics Anonymous sort of 12-step exercise, but like he just revisited his life again and again. So I was very familiar with a lot of these tropes, but I could see scenes where he would write about us where I was a child or as a teenager, and that enabled me to remember them and be like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's interesting. I remember this a little bit differently than he remembers this. Well, in one of his journals, I found that he envisioned a memoir. It was actually a novel, but written as a memoir called The Gypsy Man's Daughter that would take place starting on his deathbed, and it would involve his diaries and flashbacks and flash forwards. And it seemed in his hoping for this, it was kind of a carte blanche of like, write this book. But more than that, as I was writing the story, I really felt like there would be sort of clues along the way that indicated to me, and sometimes quite explicitly, that he wanted me to be a writer. So that when he was invited to speak at the One World International Poetry Festival in Amsterdam in 1983, and I was 12, he brought me along and introduced me to William Burroughs and wanted me to remember these different poets. And as I was moving into college and sharing writing with him, he would comment to me about what worked and what didn't work, and in letters he'd remind me to always use all the 5 senses, and would talk to me about his own experience and expectations and disappointments as a writer. And when his books of essays and novel were coming out in 1989, he wrote, I really hope that I wonder if this is anything's going to change for me. When these books come out, I always wonder if something's going to change, and then added, I hope that being reviewed is something that you get to enjoy one day, or and so that it was always in my mind that I would want to follow in his footsteps, or that I would want to be a writer. As I said before, for so many years I've been the girl who has the story to tell, and now I'm the girl who's told this story. And it was important for me in being a woman now and not being a girl, and being a mother now and not being a daughter, to be able to tell that story, to kind of graduate, to say, okay, I've done it. I did it, Dad. I told the story. I shared your poetry and your ideas with this larger audience than you ever knew in your lifetime. And now I can tell other stories. Now I can focus on being a mother and not feel so stuck in my, unrealized potential as a daughter. So that's really important.